Well, hello everybody. How's everyone doing? Sorry for the shakies. I realized I was a little late for my own show. How's everybody doing? I hope you're well. Make sure everything is quiet and silent. Kyle's hanging out. Let's see who's here. You guys have been chatting up a storm. Brian's here. Kyle's here. DJ Big Red. Uh, Garan. I forget. I know you were here last week. I'm sorry, bud. I'm sorry, man. Uh, Ironweed, what's going on, man? Thanks for coming and hanging out. Not sure how long we on today. 95 Fahrenheit there. That's toasty. That's toasty. You should be on a beach. Go on the beach. This is gonna be available later. You can come back. Uh but thanks for hanging out before you go to the beach, I guess we'll say. What's going on, Kyle? What's up, DJ Big Red? Brian. Okay, cool. So this is gonna be fun. Ready? Only because I feel like doing it. Why is this not showing me that stuff? Sorry. I feel like something's not quite right, but it's okay. So hello. VCAs and buses. Let's go over why you would use some, where some of your use cases are, some of my recommendations, where they come from, things like that. So let's get into a little bit of like the sciencey stuff first. So VCAs and buses in the analog world are relatively similar. A bus, and let's talk on like an analog console. A bus was it was a way to send audio to another area on your console, so or out of the console to like a tape track or something like that. Technically, that was a bus. Also, the main mix is a bus. So on your master fader, either in your DAW or on your console, that is that's a bus, right? Your audio goes there and it winds up. It is a path for the audio to travel, even though it doesn't hold audio itself. So that's one way to think of it. Buses are paths for audio, even if they don't hold audio themselves. Also, how's it sound today, guys? My meters seem pretty good. I just want to make sure that you guys are hearing me all right. If anything, I can move the mic a little closer. That might help. So buses on an analog console are a pathway for audio, but they don't hold audio themselves. That's kind of DAW and what's up, George? That's DAW and analog world. Buses, pathway for audio. VCAs. What does VCA stand for? I'm going to ask you guys. What does VCA stand for? You guys let me know. Tell me now. But they are a way of sending information to the channels that actually holds the audio. So it's not a pathway for the audio, but it's information sent to the channels that hold the audio, whether in DAWs or in the analog world. Volume control, not a bad guess, but there's a few other things that a VCA can do, so it's not just volume control. It is very close, though. Also, what is the A in volume control? You left the letter out. So it sends other information. Voltage controlled amplifier, VCA, voltage control is something. Yes. So a VCA is a voltage control amplifier, and it does many things. If we just strictly speak a VCA fader, it is a resistor or a voltage controller on a fader, and it's a variable. When you get to unity on your fader, there's no resistance and there's no amplification. That's what unity is on any fader. There's no resistance anymore on the variable resistor, and there's no automation. Yeah, that's a pretty good guess too, because you can do automation with a VCA. Ziggy, what's up, Ziggy? Thanks for coming and hanging out. So when you have your fader and you get to 0 on your fader, not your master fader, but just like a standard fader or a VCA fader. There's no resistance, so there's no dip in volume, and there's no amplification, and there's no push in volume. But that's why, like, on your faders, you'll see, like, it can go above 0, because you're actually using a built-in amplifier to push your signal out. A VCA linked to a bunch of channels, let's say your drum bus, can send that voltage control information to your drum tracks and your drum channels, we'll say, on your console. And you're able to proportionally hold the mix or the balance of your many channels with one fader. Now, in buses and DAWs, you can do the same, but it's a little different on how you do it, or what it's actually doing. So, let's see. Everybody got VCAs, right? So gold stars to Kyle, DJ Big Red, and silver star for Garan, and participation award for Ziggy for showing up today. This can go over here. VCA fader is like having extra fingers. It's not like having extra fingers. It's like, I mean, it sort of can be like having extra fingers, but it can also be like just purposely having only one finger and being able to be like, you know what? Too much, too little. All I need is one, and it's going to take care of everything else. Now, yes, you can then say, like, okay, well, it's controlling everything that's in my drums, and if I have 14 channels in my drums, yeah, now I have 14 fingers. So it is definitely one way to think of it. Let's get into things and actually start doing some stuff. So here's the session that we're hanging out in today. I've done a little bit of work to this song, and we're not even really going to be playing the song too much. Like, if we play it at all, we're not even going to really be doing it all that much. I do need to check this real quick. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that this machine that I'm talking to you guys on has a little bit of volume, just in case. So let's take a look at what's going on. I need to get rid of this so we can have more mixer. And so I haven't done my normal process of getting a mix session ready, because all I have is fader balance, a little bit of panning, some minor EQ things, maybe a little bit of compression, and I had to put a kick trigger on because the kick track was just a trigger track. It wasn't a kick drum. But I have no buses other than my main mix bus, and this is now also sending to you guys. Hang on. Yes, so this is all now also sending to you guys. So am I. Okay, cool. Oops, wrong button. Beep boop. Okay, so this is the only thing that's going on. Is there is some mix bus stuff, a little SSL style compression. I'm playing around with this one so I can really learn how it sounds. Followed up by a Pultec, followed up by a tape machine, and then I was just scanning around for frequencies on the mix. But everything is going here. There's no sub buses. There's no VCAs. We're gonna do it all together right now. Paul, is there any difference between analog VCAs and digital software? Sure, analog VCAs are actually voltage controllers. In a DAW, it's just a single, it's like another set of ones and zeros. But the idea behind why they made the ones and zeros do it is that it's based on what the analog version of what a VCA is supposed to do. That's a lot of words to say. They're sort of the same thing. Depending on consoles, you'll see it as VCA. Actually, nowadays with digital consoles, you'll see DCAs, a digitally controlled amplifier. Same kind of thing. So the functions of a VCA. Let's start with VCAs, because I think we all know what buses do. But let's start with VCAs. We're going to go in and we're going to start assigning this. And I forgot to do things because I am bad at remembering. So let's just make my mouse a little bit bigger for everyone. And that is under here. And I don't mind that you guys see this. Cursor size, make you nice and big. And then I need to go here and turn on my keyboard shortcuts. This way you guys can see me typing things out in case you need to. And we'll put them up here today, just because we're going to be looking mostly at the mixer. So actually, don't worry about automation. Those things go there. All right, we're going to be looking mostly at the mixer, so I do want to put it like this, and then we'll be able to zoom in on things if we need to. So all of my channels, they're all going to my main mix out, like we were just talking about. It does have my color coding, etc., etc. You got it, Paul. Thanks for asking a question. It's a good question. Just like Paul did, if you guys have questions, put them in the chat. An easy way for me to see it later is just to type at Tim Talks Audio. It gives me a little orange box, and I can see it better. But at the same time, I'm pretty active with you guys. I check back frequently. So if you have questions, put it in the chat, and we'll try and answer a lot of these questions that you might have about VCAs or buses or whatever. Okay. Last track, hold down shift, first track, make a temporary group, right click, add VCA for selected tracks. Now, I've got a VCA right here. And let's look at some of the very basic functionality of what a VCA can do. It starts off with a fader, and we all know what faders do. Make your volumes go up or down. But before we even do that, it does have a mute button. So think of it like a mute group. You now have the ability, without like actually grouping all of these things together, it's essentially a mute group button. You hit mute, your drums are now muted, or whatever's connected to this VCA. Same thing with so these are some of those voltage control signals that a VCA on a console can do. Is you hit solo on your VCA that's linked to your drums, and you'll just listen to your drums. Right? Cool. Let's go back to this. Here's my rough drum balance. And if I go to my VCA, and I'm going to do this real quick so you can see my faders. And then I'm also going to do this. I'm just going to hit VCA on my fader port, and it's only going to show me the one VCA that I have. And you guys might not even be able to see it all that well. Maybe I can turn the light on. Beep. Oh, or I can drop it. Things happen. Okay, so here's the fader. This is the VCA. It's the same thing as the VCA right here on the screen, right? So don't watch the red VCA on screen, and don't watch you can sort of watch my finger in the camera, but watch all of the other faders that are going on here. I'm just going to do it on the fader port, and it would be the same thing if you're using your mouse and keyboard. No big deal. Oh, there goes the camera. Okay. 9 Electromac having a beer. Enjoy that. Don't solo. We can't hear you. Aha, I soloed. I can fix that. I can fix that. Hang on. I gotta bring this guy in. I have to solo save him. Beep. Okay. Now, should be able to hear me later if I do something silly. Thanks for the call out, though. I know I muted my mic. So let's go back. If you hit solo on a VCA, it sends that voltage control to whatever's linked to it. Same thing for mute. That's what we were talking about before. All right. So now watch all of my faders, including the VCA, but I'm going to do it on the fader port. So if I start bringing it down, all of the faders proportionally go down with the VCA. So it's going to hold my relative balance of all of my faders onto one fader. Okay? It's going to do the same thing if I start pushing it up, too. It's going to proportionally increase the volume of these things as I'm going up on my VCA. Whoops, don't worry. I just command-click my VCA here, and it's going to put everything back the way I had it. And you can have many inputs, or Studio One calls it targets, as I hover over here and find out. You can have a bunch of different targets for your VCA. So right now, this is my drum VCA, so I can go in and call this drums. And then this option is your VCA controller, and that's just under view. Where is it? VCA connections. So in the menu here, when you open up the wrench, under channel components, VCA connections, that is when you have a VCA underneath your fader showing which one it's connected to. When you rename it, it'll bring the name over as well. Brian Wallace, yes, that's the solo safe, is what I did on my vocal track. Yes, DJ Big Red, I am testing everyone to see if they can lip read. Okay. So this is pretty cool. VCAs, very easily, and you can use this to write automation, because you can go into here and you can write your volume automation. You can write mute and solo automation if you need to do stuff like that. That's 100% things you can do with a VCA. If the lowest fader hits bottom, does it stop, or can you keep going to squash them all? If the lowest fader, so we're talking, let's take a look at, it's a China spot mic. That's what this fader is right here. So I'm gonna grab my VCA and I'm just gonna start bringing it down. But watch these two, the Tom 1 or Tom 2 versus the China. This distance, or this ratio, proportionally stays the same. So by the time one hits the bottom, they pretty much all do. They're all gonna hit nothing at the same time, because technically with just a little bit of bump on my VCA, it's sending signals to the faders to be like, some of you can release through. So, the China symbol is at minus 70.8. I mean, like minus 100 and something, like, it's really quiet. You're probably not going to hear this, but it's keeping the ratios of your mix where you want it. Okay. Right? So that's some of the things that the VCA can do. When you're writing your automation, and if we go into our tracks and very quickly, beep, let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. And all of these should be showing volume. I don't know why they're not. But if we were going to write some automation, and we are, and this is actually something I was watching, Marcus Huskins, he has a very brilliant mini series on VCAs, and I was watching it the other day because I needed to re-educate myself. If we want, what we can do on our, let's open up our mixer again. We need to be able to, let's go to touch automation on our drums, and very quickly, just to only have the drums, I'm just gonna mute everybody else real quick. Let's go back to that. So gonna hit play, and I'm just gonna do a little bit of volume automation on the drums, and we can watch the lines up here. Okay, so let's go and hit play. Okay, so now that we've done that, if we go down to our drums, here is our automation line, right? Make everything nice and big and get this out of here. But also look at what's going on our channels. Is we have our standard blue line, which is like your regular bass line, and then the gray line that we're seeing here, and I'll zoom in so you can see it. This is the information from the VCA. If you go down to your VCA track down here on bottom, the red line is showing this volume automation. And if we did something like this and actually curved it up, everything is going to follow the same exact shape that the VCA is doing. I'm just going to hit undo real quick. So the VCA is sending the automation to all of our tracks, and we can do our volume rides, mutes, solos, things like that, right? Maybe you missed it, but how do you assign which tracks go to a VCA? Good question. I'm going to do the guitars real quick. One way to do it, and I think is the fastest way to do it, is click on one, hold down Shift, click on the last one you want to do, right click, or alternate click on a Mac. I think you have to hold Option and click, and then just add VCA for selected tracks. It'll make a new one, and it'll route all of those to that new VCA. Cool? Cool. Just going to undo that real quick. Not that it really matters, but... So here's all of our automation, and here's all of our relative automation on our drum tracks. And then if we play it back, we would hear all of that. So I switched over to read, and I did that on the fader port. So our VCA is here. Fast forward. Our drums go down, they come back up. Got it because of Kyle. Yeah, it's really that, like, selecting your tracks, right click, add VCA for selected, fastest way to do it, in my opinion. And unless you have a keyboard shortcut to do that, to make it just a little bit faster, that's the way to do it. So we have our volume automation written on our VCA. Okay, cool. That helps a lot. Something else you can do, which is really cool with VCA, and again, thank you to Marcus. I have to find it. Is you can do this in your right-click menu. So in your track header, if you right-click, merge VCA automation. This is essentially printing the automation for your VCA onto your tracks. And so if we do this, our VCA track resets back to 0, but any automation that you would have written in now gets transferred to the tracks that are affected by that VCA, and it automatically switches them to read. Pretty cool. And because this is now back at 0, because your VCA is now reset back to 0, you can add additional automation onto the tracks that you've already touched, or that you've already done some automation to. So I'll go back to touch, and let's change things, and we'll really mess it up. Okay, so we just went crazy with it. Let's get this out of here. And look at everything we've done. So once again, on our tracks, it has the original automation that we wrote, but it now also has the gray line of the VCA controller telling it to do different things. And we can play it back. And it still does all of that proportionally to all of the tracks. Channels can only be assigned to a single VCA. Yes. Because otherwise, like, you could really cancel things out if you had to multiple VCAs. So you wouldn't want to do that. And once again, now that we're here, if we right-click, merge VCA automation, here's all of your new automation that has overwritten some of the previous automation, but also has taken it into account. I'm going to undo a bunch of things. So now we're back to 0 pretty much. Cool. All right. What are the drawbacks of VCAs? Well, it's not a pathway for audio. So you can't affect that pathway. So doing things like drum bus compression, you can't. You need to have a pathway for the audio to go. This is just control for those other tracks. So if you wanted to do something like drum bus compression or anything like that, you would need to have a pathway or a bus. So let's kind of, I'm just going to undo a few times. I might have to do multiple because I kind of want to just get back to, there we go. Okay, so now we're going to get into buses. And if you guys have questions, put them in the chat. I'll get back to it. So we're going to do the exact same thing. Select your tracks, right-click or alt-click on a Mac. I just have a mouse hooked up, so it's right-click. Add bus for selected tracks. I also have a keyboard shortcut. Wink, wink. This is the workflow I use most frequently. So this is, for me, it's Option Control B on a Mac. You can assign this to whatever you want. Steve K, hey Tim, sorry I'm late. Thanks for starting over. What's a VCA? What does it do? Now you VCA voltage VCA voltage control amplifier. Okay. VCAs send control signals to the channels they're affecting. You can write automation to it, and proportionately, it will move all of those faders connected to it. And it's just control signals. A bus is a path for the audio. Sheila's here. Hi, Sheila. So now we're moving on to buses. If you miss stuff, we're going to be going back and forth, but we need to get into what a bus can do versus what a VCA can do now. So I've selected my tracks, and I right-clicked on one of them, and I'm going to add a bus for select channels. And here it is, just out of force of habit. I'm going to call it drums. And now you can see the routing on my signals have changed. All of my drums are now going to my drum bus, and my drum bus is going to my mix bus. The mix bus is a normal bus that everybody has. You guys probably know. I have a mix bus before it goes to you guys, and it's not my master out. That's just something part of my workflow to hang out with you dudes and dudettes. So now here's something that's really cool. We're seeing all of the same things that we saw before. Here's our fader for our bus. Here's our mute and solo button. Here is the button to make the bus mono if you needed a mono bus for some reason. Right now it's set to stereo, and that's by default, right? You can pan your buses. Steve K, can you tell it's my first live stream? No, not at all. Steve, I'm saying your name, bud. Hey, friend. Thanks for coming and hanging out. We are friends, Sheila. We're the best of friends. Best friends with all you guys. All right. You can pan your buses. So going to whatever your main bus is, whether it's like your main output, your mix bus, a bus to a bus to a bus, you can do those kinds of things. But here's some other differences. Here's your targets again. Like we said, Studio One calls them targets. What is linked to here. And if you click on it, it shows you what is in here. It's the same thing with the VCA. We didn't do it before. But if you click on it, it tells you what is going here. That's one negative to this, though. On the VCA, you would see a little pop-up underneath your fader here telling you, like, hey, it's got a VCA attached to it. With buses, it tells you in the routing. And if you're not seeing the routing, it's probably because you're too short like this, right? But I have things kind of blown up right now so everybody can see. At least a little better anyway. Here are some of... Garan, enjoy the beach, man. I hope it's beautiful and that you get in the water and the water's cool and refreshing. It's 95 degrees Fahrenheit for him right now. So here's some other cool stuff that you can do with a bus. Mix effects. You can go ahead. Oops, don't. That's because I was holding stuff down. You can go ahead and put your console shapers on your CT1. CTC1. To get some of that analog console feel and sound, like crosstalk, distortion, saturation, I should say, things of that nature. So you can do that on a bus. You can't do that with a VCA. Also, you can put your inserts, like we were talking before. A VCA is just a controller. A bus is a pathway for the audio. So my drums right now, if I hit play, actually, let me go back to the start. Everything's still going through here, and I have a fader where I can affect that audio. I can turn it down, I can turn it up. I can go ahead and grab my buses, and you can see two now because there's a mix bus, and I have my drum bus. If I switch the drum bus to touch, I can do the same thing like we did with the VCA. Right? We wrote our automation. and the drums will follow suit. When we switch this to read and we hit play, it follows suit, right? With the VCAs, you were able to right-click here, and you would merge your VCA automation. You can't do that on a bus. Okay, so that's one thing. I'm just going to undo that real quick. So we're back to 0. But with there's pros and cons to each. That's why we're discovering what they can do, and you guys figure out for yourselves which is the best for your workflow. Would you use mix effects on any other bus but the mix bus? I know you can. Yes, you can. But I'm not sure why you would. What's up, Manus? Why you would? Because again, you can get some of that. Let's just throw console shaper on because everybody has this. You can get you wouldn't want noise, ugh, but you can get some console saturation because even on the big analog consoles, if you had things going to like your VCAs or buses in the front, there's still that crosstalk that exists. That existed on those consoles. Or maybe you want your drums to drive way more. You want more of a saturated sound from your drums, and you can reduce the crosstalk a little or even turn it off. So you can put mix effects on your drum bus and get a more saturated sound for your drums and your guitars, and maybe a less saturated sound on your vocals, or no saturation at all, but you still get some of that console like kind of sound. So that's why you can, and that's why I gave you the option to do so. I'm just going to go ahead and take this off because we don't need that. So you can't merge your automation to the tracks that's attached to the bus. But with because you can't do that, there are still benefits that you can do. Like we were saying before, you have your entire the same kind of inserts that you can put on your tracks, you can put on your bus. So you can do sub-bus compression or sub-bus manipulation, I guess, is probably the best way to say it. So if you wanted to go in and say like, oh man, my drums really need some kind of like tape emulation on them. Okay, well, just your drums do. And now you've done exactly that. And instead of having to do X many instances of the tape emulator, you're now running all of your drums through just one. And it's still going to get the same relative effect. I mean, oh yeah, give me the settings. You know, you could do like, because this particular plugin, the Slate tape, it doesn't have like different tape channels or like, you know, different channels with different like characteristics. Like you don't need to worry about it too much. So I can just send all of my drums into this bus. I'll bypass it real quick and we'll just go to bar 3. It's a subtle change, but there's saturation going on. I mean, if we really wanted to go crazy, thankfully these are linked, we can just drive this all the way up and it's going to drop the output way down. And now all of our drums are getting that saturation, especially when that kick drum hits. And we can just kind of dial that back. So now we have tape characteristics going on all of our drums. Take it easy, Steve. Thanks for coming and hanging out for a bit. You can't hear the drum bus. Why can't you hear the drum bus? I know why. That's why. So let's do that again real quick because I made a dumb. I did a dumb. Okay. No drum compression, or no drum tape emulation. Now, all of our drums are getting this one effect. And like we said before, we don't have to put a bunch of different instances of the tape machine across all of our tracks. Now, the drums are only 9 tracks right now, but I've mic'd up drum kits and have done 14 mics. I've done 16 mics. Sometimes there's a lot, right? You can't hear it. I think you guys can hear it now. Let me know you can hear it now, because I did a dumb. It was me. I know when to take blame. I did a dumb. You should be here. You should have heard it now. So that's one thing that I like about buses. You can put inserts on, so you can also do like maybe you want to do some API compression. You want to do some drum bus compression. So all of your drums are going to hit this compressor. Let's just do some settings that I like. I probably should make this as a preset, but I haven't yet, so whatever. Okay, so we've done a little bit of drum bus compression. All of our drums are getting a little bit of compression, a little bit of glue, bringing out the transients in the body a little bit. It's nice. And then we'll follow it up with the tape. So we've done some drum bus compression. We've done some drum bus tape emulation. And these are things you can do. Another huge thing that you can do with buses is you can do sends. And I think that this is awesome. If I wanted to, I can now send my drums to my whole drum bus to a parallel compression bus. Because you guys might know, very frequently I put my effect returns. I don't use effects channels too much. I use more buses. I use buses for pretty much everything that's not just an audio or MIDI channel. It goes onto a bus for me. And that's just part of my workflow, because I can send from one to another and send that one to other ones and really get kind of crazy if I need to. So that's huge. Otherwise, like, I would have to go in, and yes, I could very easily click all of these, go here, add a bus channel or add an effects channel to do whatever I wanted to do. But with just the one bus, I could send this to some parallel compression. One of the weird things about that, though, is making sure that your balance between your faders and your sends to that parallel compression stays relatively the same. So if I go in and I do some automation to my drums and say, okay, well, in the verses, I want this to be down a dB, and in the chorus, I want it to be at 0 dB. My sends level can be affected by this if it's not set up as pre-fader. And then even still, if it's pre-fader, I'm going to be sending too much to my parallel compression. So these kinds of things you need to play around with. Where if you have your sends to your parallel compression, oops, get out of here, you. Get out of here, you. If your sends to your parallel compression are on the channels themselves, or the subs within, your bus, then the balance of your parallel processing versus your channels is going to be the same. Yes, that's really weird and interesting, and I wish I had a good example. We could probably come up with something real quick. It's just something to watch out for. Because you want your balances. Like, you don't want to go in and do your automation on your song and be like, okay, well, and like I said, in the verses, so like this area is going to be down by a dB. Ooh, look at that, perfect dB. And then like a parallel, I have to make a bus. That's a negative, is from a bus you can't make a bus, but I'm not too worried about that right Let's catch up with you guys real quick, and to do that, I'm just gonna go like this. Yes, you can hear it. Cool. Yeah, I know. I did it dumb. I did it dumb. And yes, it was Music to Motion's fault, mostly because he's not here. And if he is, he hasn't been active in the chat, and he's still not here. A bus has the best flexibility. In my opinion, yes. But the VCAs are still really powerful. And you can use them in conjunction, which is really cool. Ironwing's got to step away for a little bit. Does the volume fader on the VCA affect the master channel volume level? No, it affects what is being fed into your master. So, again, if you have like that's something to keep in mind too, is with your VCAs and your buses, as you're doing your automation going into any mix bus processing, you're changing your gain stage, your gain staging going into, let's say, a mix bus compressor, which may or may not be a bad thing. Maybe you want to set your mix bus compression to your chorus, or excuse me, to your verses. This way, when the chorus hits and it's 1 dB louder, it's actually hitting the compressor a little bit harder and making a more aggressive sound depending on the mix you're going for. Brian, how do you maintain organization when you see the great segue? We're gonna get into that. How do you maintain organization when you start adding a bunch of buses and effects and VCAs? I know my sessions tend to get pretty disorganized because I don't want to stop mixing to reorganize. Yes, well, Brian, for one, a very important thing to do, in my opinion, is when you are getting sessions ready to mix, that should be actually one of the last things you do in your day. And then the next day you go in and you start mixing, because you want to be in the right mindset. And then we're going to get into organization too. We'll get into that in a little bit. But like, if I'm in the mindset of mixing, I agree. I don't want to be like, okay, well, I need a bus for this. I need a VCA for that. I need to do this. I need to do that. I want to be creative. I want to be in the moment of mixing and make my good choices to make the song better as what it is. And I don't want to waste time in the beginning. And I don't want to, like, I'd rather waste time at the end preparing tomorrow's mix. Even if like I'm tracking today, be like, okay, well, this is, I did a great job tracking today. I want to mix this tomorrow. Let me do 15, 20, 30 minutes worth of work to do my organization. And also, once you get into a flow of things, as you're recording and doing stuff like that, you get into the flow and you know what you like the best. So, and then I'll show you some other organization stuff in this little window, which is going to get bigger in a minute, in a few moments. Manus, is there a way to send a parallel reverb to a parallel compression track in parallel? Ah. I know this sounds dumb, but I don't know how to explain this any better. Well, you could let's do something like this and make it real big. So let me just reread it real quick. Is there a way to send a parallel reverb to a parallel compression? Okay, so let's do this real quick. I'm gonna make 2 buses, and I'm just gonna do, okay, boop boop. I'm gonna call this one para. I'm gonna call this one verb. And because these are effect returns, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna send them to the mix to make sure that you guys hear them. And I'm just gonna pull open some things real quick. Room reverb, factory hall. Sure, why not? I'm just gonna throw up presets. It doesn't matter. Right? Does not matter. And then let's go something crazy for our parallel compression. And that's one that's going to take a minute to load because it's just my machine. There it goes. Beep. Don't mind that. Don't mind the GUI. There it goes. So CornF Audio, talkback limiter, crazy parallel compressor. Things ultra fast on your attack and release and just distorts the whatever you put into it in a good way. So here, let's go here. Our drums, get out of here, you. We want to send our drums to our verb, right? We want to get some extra reverb out of our drums. And let's kind of just dial something in real quick. Let's go sends. Okay, cool. I'm going to do it on the fader port. So here, you can watch me do it here. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Okay. Too much, but it's there, right? Okay. Fader cam away. So now you want to do this. You want to send parallel reverb, and this is parallel reverb because it's just a return track of our drums. You want to send it to our parallel compression. So let's first do some parallel compression for our drums. And then I'm actually just going to turn the reverb off real quick because it was too much. Okay, so I've got some parallel compression going on. Real fast, real saturated, very nice. So we have our send to our reverb and we have our send to our parallel compression, but now we want to take this reverb, get back over there. We want to take this reverb and send it to the parallel compression bus as well. There's two ways to do it. You can go into your sends and go into parallel here, and then it's its own independent control that is post fader when it's blue. So now I'm going to send a copy of the reverb to the parallel compression bus. But it's a copy. So not only am I going to get the reverb in my mix bus, but I'm also going to send a copy of that reverb to the parallel compression, and then that also is going to your reverb bus. So let's go ahead and grab this guy. So now we also have reverb in our parallel compression bus, and it's bringing that tail way out there. How about some sidechain compression on the bus? Well, maybe we'll get to that in a little bit. Are you just talking like setting stuff up? Because you can do things like that. You can send your buses to sidechains of other things, and don't worry about all these compressors that I had on the vocals. I felt like I needed to really slam them into place, but we're not even in there. We're not even talking about that. So, Manus, thank you so much. It wasn't possible to just do effect. Yes, with effects channels. So, this is why I prefer to use buses instead of effects channels. One is you can make sends like this. Another way to do it, and I'm going to get rid of this one, is actually with the routing right here. I can take the output of this bus and route it to the parallel bus. And so now the fader here is the same thing as your send control into the parallel compression, but there's no copy going to your main mix bus. So you now only have one version of this reverbed drums in this case. So you have only one version of this reverb signal, and the fader down here, this is the amount getting sent to the parallel compression bus. So we're going to drop this all the way out. Let me just go back to tracks or bus. Okay, yeah. So when I hit play now, there's no reverb, and then this is only going to send that reverb to the parallel compression bus. So we've taken the output and only sent the reverb into our parallel compression bus that way. You should be able to do the same thing on an effects track, and I'm just going to make one real quick. So you can go into the outputs of the effects track and do the same thing, just without being able to also send a copy somewhere else. That is the main reason why I use buses instead of effects tracks. So I'm just going to send this back to my mix bus, and I'm just going to take, honestly, I'm just going to take these things and drop them all the way down because I don't need them right now. It was for examples. Let's catch up with you guys. The first question, the first way I showed you where you use ascend from a bus helps you out. Awesome. Glad to hear it. What am I thinking? I am thinking of what are the next steps. So you're like, okay, oh, organization. That's what we were talking about. Let's get into organization on doing all these things. Yes, you can have your mixer kind of like crazy like this, where you have all of this stuff, and don't mind that all these vocals are red. I didn't really take the time to designate what are background vocals and things like that. But for organization, so let me show you how I would actually handle something. I'm gonna go like this, and I'm gonna go to these guys, and I'm gonna get rid of these buses. I'm gonna take my drums, and I'm gonna send them back to my mix bus. Oops, not the inputs, outputs. Mix bus. Okay, everybody's happy? Everybody's happy? Everybody's doing their thing? Cool. Here's how I would go about organizing. John, I feel like I'm in a parallel universe. Whoa. And Kyle already beat me to it. But Brian, this is how I would go about at the end of my day, getting ready for the next day, organizing a session. Once you're in, and let's say you've already done this, where you've gone in and you've color coded your tracks, you named them if you needed to. I'm just turning automation off. And you're like, man, this is cool and all. I've got all my tracks laid out the way I want them, but my goodness, I don't need all of these faders. This is too much. I can select all of my tracks, and I'm gonna get rid of my mixer because I don't even need it for this. And let's just shrink everybody down. Yeah, that's fine. Kick drum, drum room, alt click on a Mac, right click on a PC, pack folder. Now folders are only in the higher levels of Studio One, but I think it's totally worth it. When you pack your folder, and I'm gonna go ahead and call this drums, and I'm gonna name it first. This little guy down here, where the three dudes are standing next to each other, and you have this thing, it says none. Because you can go in and you can create a bus or a VCA channel from here. And because I personally prefer to use buses, that's what I can do. And now when I go to my mixer, I now have one fader. Let's just undo that real quick. And you'll see I have nothing in my console now. I don't even have my drums here anymore. They're packed into a folder, and I'm not going to see them unless I expand that folder. If you make a bus, it then puts it back onto your console because it's linked to something that can control the volume. Mojadin! Do you ever mix each track individually or only the folders? Yes, you have to get your balance. You have to get your balance of those instruments. Like, look at my guitars. They're kind of all over the place, and I rough balance those before, without even making buses to get things ready for you guys for this stream. So now I at least have one fader for my drums. And this is kind of like the overall drum volume. And you can still do automation to this. You can be like, okay, I want them down a little bit in the in the verses, and I want it bumped up a little bit in the choruses. So I can do all of my automation from here. And because, wink, wink, this might be a video that's coming out soon. Because I have my link expansion and visibility to folder tracks enabled, I can hit this button and I can go in and now see all of the faders that are linked to that bus or packed in that folder. Malkuth, what's going on, man? So this is one thing. Let's undo two things. We're going to get rid of that bus. Okay, so now we're still packed in our folder. I renamed it drums. Don't mind that. We go here and go add VCA. We have a very similar thing. The VCA is here doing its job. It is working the same way. I can view all of my things. I can write my automation to this track. I can show and hide my tracks within this VCA. But again, I've lost like the ability of like having a path for that audio to do bus compression or bus manipulation, EQ, compression, reverbs, etc., etc., etc. Whatever you want to do to an entire instrument. It's my pleasure, man. Thanks for coming and hanging out. Modridan, I was not talking about a rough mix. Just spend time. Yeah, no. Sometimes even when you're mixing in, once you have everything into your buses or your VCAs, whichever you choose to use in your workflow, buses for me. Yeah, no, because I still go in and manipulate the individual tracks within a mix to be like, okay, well, yes, maybe I want all of my drums to come up in this section, but when I do that, my cymbals are a little too much, so I can just kind of, I can sneak those guys down a little bit while the rest of my drums have a nice little lift to them. So yes, you still go in when needed to go into the individuals, but that's another thing, is you can break it down to an entire mix is just 7 or 8 faders, whatever you need it to be. Matthew Jones, what's going on, bud? Thanks. I love the little bits of encouragement. Thank you. So yeah. I now have my solos that I can do. I have my mute that I can do here, but again, I can't do any manipulation of all of the tracks as a whole. But what I could do is take all of these guys and still add a bus so that they're all now going to the bus, which would then go to my mix bus. And I can use the VCA to change how much things are pushing into the bus. So if I have some kind of bus compression going on, and let's just go with a classic SSL style thing. It's got most of my settings in. So let's do some very quick dialed in drum bus compression. Ready? Okay, very quick drum bus compression. Which actually I did it wrong because I was pushed up a little. So all of my drums are going into this bus, but now I can go ahead and write the automation for the drums in the choruses to push a little bit harder. So I can manipulate how much is actually being pushed into the drum bus by the VCA and have it hit harder and be more aggressive sounding through the drum bus compression. Hey, that computer woke up. So you can use these things in tandem with one another. You can link your channels to a VCA and then have your channels fed into a bus to get other kinds of like effects going on, which is very flexible. Mojiden is also a bus guy. Let's see. Manus, this would be awesome when you have a guitar amp tracks and then have to mix all of those takes together onto one bus without seeing all those amp tracks. It's going to waste some valuable screen estate. So that's what we have going on here. Is all of our guitars are all in green. Don't mind the EQ. So very quickly, I can take this. I can dump them into a guitar bus. Rename it guitars. This is now going to my mix. All of my guitars are going into this guitar bus. And if I wanted to do some guitar bus processing, which I'm going to once this plugin loads up real quick, which might take a second because of my machine. This is just my machine. Hey, there it is. This is the Cornef Audio Amplified Instrument Processor. And it's a little bit big for my screen. I think I need to flip to the back and change the GUI, which is down here. I make it a little smaller so it fits on my screen a little better. And actually runs a little smoother too. So now all of my guitars are going to go into this bus. And I can unmute them. I can unmute them. Unmute. There. Go to my drums. So now I only have guitars that we're listening to. They're all going into this one bus, which we could have packed a folder, and it's probably the better way to do it because we were talking organization, but I'm getting sidetracked. So now all of my drums are going into here, and I can do some a little extra guitar bus processing. A little fuller, a little wider. And that's all of my guitars now. Let's catch up with you guys. Matthew Jones, you can never be certain how much positive reinforcement someone is gonna from day to day. Exactly. Give everybody just a little reason to smile. What Mac are you using? What processor does it have? This is it's a early 2015 with an i5 in it and 8 gigs of RAM, but I have it's older. It's showing its age. I'm saving up for a new machine. The order is tracks to VCA, sends it to the bus, but is the VCA like an input knob? So a VCA from earlier we were talking about it. Never used VCA before. So a VCA is a voltage control amplifier, and it essentially is like a single fader volume, but it does things proportionally. So let me go back to the drums. We'll just, oops, stereo. We'll mute our guitars and we'll go back to our drums, which has our bus and our VCA. Drums exclamation point, because why not? So watch what happens here, Modron. On our VCA, which is connected to all these drums here, and I'm just going to use the fader port when I do this. When I bring it down, all of the faders hold their relative balances. Even if I go up past 0, they push past 0 as well, depending on where they were in the balance, and they all hold their relative balance with one another. When you do it with a bus, and let me go to my buses real quick, you don't get that. This is more of just like a volume knob. So a VCA can sort of be like an input control, I guess you could say, and the bus can be sort of an output control. Is sort of one way to say it. Okay. Yes, I this is the apprehended that if you guys are interested in getting this track to mix it for yourself, it's on the Cambridge site, so you can go pick up the multi-tracks yourself. Ghastly, I'll ask you, did you find the guitar problem that was there? Actually, there's a few problems in these multi-tracks that I'm curious if you found. Let's see. Malkuth, you have some things going on here. I do mostly rap, R&B type tracks. Seems like rock type music is more dynamic. It can be. But I mean, I also mix like rap and R&B stuff too. Sometimes that stuff needs to be really dynamic and also needs to be very in its place. Like the vocals need to be like your vocals need to be here. That's where you live. But being able to still move things around and have life in your track is great. It's what makes the track come alive. Oh, the song is killer. You guys want to hear the song real quick? I just have a very rough balance of things. I don't know what that bus compressor is going to do. Unmute those guitars and these synths. So the intro of the track sounds like this. And I'll just play the intro real quick. And this is just a fader balance, pan balance, and a tiny bit of mixed bus processing. And this is where I have it right now. it does that for a few bars, and then it goes into the verses. But that's where I've balanced it so far. The out of time guitars. Yep, you have to move that. That guitar 3 is terribly out of time, and I think some of the other DI guitars are out of time too. But I didn't get that far into it. So if you guys do download these tracks, watch out for those guitars. They're a little out there. Let's see. Thanks. I use automation mostly never. A VCA seems useful. It might speed the mix. Yeah. So here, let's. I'm gonna try to. Oh, I'd rather just remove some things. It might be easier to just remove some of these buses. These are all going to main, and I needed to change them back to mix bus. So we were talking organization before, and let's go back into here, and we'll remove this, and we'll go into these. Honestly, these guys can all turn off. That'll help speed up some stuff. Not you. Oh, curses. Just muting some things. We're gonna go back to our drums, and we were talking organization. Like, get back over there. So like, yes, when you're getting ready to mix your songs, like this is a lot. There's a lot of tracks here, and you don't need all of that. On your arranger, I pack things into folders, which it seems like I've already done, and these ones just don't have anything assigned to them, or I forgot to take them out. But I will take all of my tracks when I'm organizing for a mix, pack all the like things into folders. Even if it's only one track, I will put it into a folder like I did my drums, and then I will put everybody to a bus. This is bass, and you're not the right color. Basses are blue. Everyone knows that. And then go in. Everybody, guitars, everybody gets their own bus. And then when we collapse everything down, synths get a bus, piano, which I don't even use. Honestly, you're better off if you mix this one yourself. Mute that piano. Kind of crap, but it's okay. It's a reference. It was a reference for sleeping. Yo, Malkuth with the super chat. Thanks, bud. That means a lot. I appreciate it. So now on your arranger, everything's shrunk down, but look at my mixer now. It's all here. And if I go to on my fader port, and let me show you. Oop, come back up. I now only have, come here. We're taking a little travel. I'm looking at just a handful of tracks. Sorry for the shaky cam. I'm holding it. But now, if I wanted to change my balances, all I have to do is here, and the relative balances are all connected. You guys are seeing this change on Studio One. And because I have a fader port 8, I can do up to 8 tracks at the same time. This is my mix bus, so I shouldn't mess with that one. Go back to where you belong. You're at 0. Okay. So now I can just take everything and put them all in. So I forgot all the channels outside of the buses are muted. So that's not really going to work. But if everything wasn't muted, I'm dropping things. If everything wasn't muted, you would be able to quickly kind of rebalance or write in some automation to change the dynamics of your song. And it doesn't matter what kind of songs it is. Ironweeds, does Cambridge purposely throw in, oops, oh, hang on. My chat got scrolled, all kinds of weird things. So Ghastly, also there was a strange pop in the drum track. Yeah, there's something in there somewhere. I don't think I got that far in. I just did a real quick rough balance. And you added a cello. That's cool. Sounds a bit like Kavinsky, maybe. Do you have the mix bus processing as part of your template? And if so, can you show us what you're using? Yeah. So I said earlier, I just started, I want to really learn how this compressor sounds. It's another SSL style compressor, but this is the one from Plugin Alliance. It's the BX Townhouse bus compressor. So I threw this one on, and honestly, it's barely doing anything. We'll get into it. Like it's just kissing. This is right now is followed up by a Pultec, and it's doing the Pultec low end trick where you go to 60 and you add and attenuate at the same time, and then it's also adding like a nice little smiley up on top. This track, and no, this isn't part of a template. It's just these are very common things that I do. It's going into a tape machine, doing a 15 IPS, 2-inch, or 2-track, I should say, half-inch 2-track. And then this fab filter, I was just doing some frequency hunting earlier today. Just trying to hear some stuff and maybe clean up the ultra lows. This is the low cut at 45. So I'm not even doing anything with these two. I was just frequency hunting. So that's my mix bus processing. And even when the drums are going, I'm not doing any compression right now. When everything else is in, it's doing a little bit, but I'm not doing anything right now. But these are kind of frequent things that I'll do on my mix bus. Let's see. Malkuth reminds me of anime intro. Nice. Does Cambridge purposely throw in problems, or are they organic? Honestly, I don't know. I would imagine some of them are organic, if not most of them. So I'm catching up. There's the super chat from Malkuth. Can you post a link to this Cambridge website or stems? Yes. If you give me just a minute, I probably can. Let's see. Cambridge MT. So I'm just going to give you a link to the main site, and then you can dive in. They have tons of multi-tracks for practice, for mixing practice in there. So you guys can find this, or whatever kind of song you want to, because they have all kinds of different genres. Man, they have all kinds of tracks perfectly recorded and ready to go. Multis, out of phase, overheads, and kick drums. Yeah, it's all organic stuff. DJ Big Red, just do a quick search for Cambridge MT. You can't post the links here, but I can, so I did that for you. Telefunken Live is also a good place. Yes, Kyle, I agree. Love the Cambridge stems from Mike Sr. Yup. Mike Sr.'s books are pretty good too. Hang on. Because I'm talking to you guys, I may as well just do this and actually talk to you. You got many years. 4 only. Let's see. I love the townhouse. It glues everything together so well. Yes, especially when you're just kissing it. Like it does a ton. And really, I should be doing like this. Beep, boop, boop. You guys don't need to see this. It doesn't matter. I'm just like unmuting all those things so I can show you a little bit more of what the compressor is doing. So here, whoop. Here's what the compressor is doing. Let me bring it down ever so slightly so you can see it. Oh. I don't know why my buses aren't going on my mixed bus. Here we go. That's all it's doing. Look at the input too. So I probably could be driving this in more, but I don't need a lot of compression. I just needed a little bit of glue. Ironweeds, do you have a favorite SSL that is free? A favorite SSL compressor that's free? I don't know if I can quickly think of one that is free and SSL style. Do you guys have any suggestions for Ironweeds? I guess you can post the links. Oops. I can post links because I'm a moderator, and if Music to Motion was here, he would also be able to post links. But he's not here today, and that's cool. No sound. I know. I fixed it. I did another dumb. 2 dumbs for today. Somebody put it on the scoreboard. You don't have to be sorry for being cheap. You want to explore new things and get new sounds. and you want to make sure you don't break the bank. Totally respectable, dude. Ice cube in the mouth. You know, I'm sure if we did a quick search, we could find free SSL style compressor. I should also type in plugin because that'll be important. The top 5 free compressors. Very quickly looking at some. Let's see. I don't know if density is. You can always go with the Klanghelm. It's not really an SSL style. FX Pansion Decam Free Comp. This looks like it might be something close. Yeah, I'm just very quickly looking. I know you guys can't see it. I know. Free SSL bus. Clones. Oh. Free compressor VSTs. Honestly, like there, you could just very quickly and easily do some Google searches. The Presonus Illinois meetup is tomorrow with Johnny. Thanks, Kyle. Yeah, if you guys want to sign up and talk shop with a bunch of Presonus users, you could always join the meetups. I'll probably get another New York one going probably late spring or early spring. Sometime spring. Hey, Chevy 5-speed. What's going on? Thanks for coming in and dropping in. MJUC is decent. Yes, there is a MJUC free version, and the MJUC paid version is also just as nice. All right, so anybody have any VCA or bus questions? Oops, I meant to hit that button. That they want to ask. Maybe something we didn't go over. Some workflow things using VCAs or buses. Let me know. Yes, Ziggy's the host of the Pennsylvania meetup. If you're, again, you don't have to be in these areas. You can just join these things and talk to other users. If you are in the area, cool. Then you make some new friends that live relatively close to you. But you don't have to. Like, I did the New York one, and I had people from all over the country who were in, and it didn't matter. There were some New York and New Jersey people, but nobody cares. Just join, make some new friends. I joined the Nashville one the other day for literally, like, I would say a total of 40 minutes, and I was in and out the entire time, but I made a new friend. I'm gonna talk to that guy some more. Excuse me. Brian, the SSL comp from Waves is cheap. Yes, everything from Waves is always on sale, so you could do that, and it's pretty cheap. You might be able to. There's definitely referral codes. They are affiliate links, but in the description of this video, there should be a link for Waves. And pretty much everything on Waves is always on sale anyway, so you probably could pick up the SSL compressor for about $30 from them, if not even cheaper. Or you can actually, relatively not too long ago, SSL native, like SSL, the company, had their plugins on sale, and one of them was the bus compressor, and a channel strip, and it was $50 for the pair, I think. So from them, you'd think it's probably pretty legit. Let's see. SSL native bundle was just on sale. Yep. Do analog VCAs change tone more than digital? They can, yes, because of the actual analog components. Sorry, that was bugging me. Yeah, because of the actual analog components inside. Because if you push past 0, that is an amplifier. It's a voltage control amplifier. So you can get tone changes because of that amplifier with an analog VCA. Digital VCA, no, it's just going to push the volume of those other VCAs. But an analog one, you can get some tone variance. Let's see. Where can I get a link for that meetup, please? We're going to do this. Oh, I can't do it because I'm not signed in. Hang on. I will get you something. Let's see. Hang on. This is from the Presonus site themselves, and it is all of their upcoming meetups. So I hope that helps. The VCA fader, can you change the resolution? Can I change the resolution of a VCA fader? Hang on, I'm just doing something real quick. I don't know what you mean by resolution. When you think fader resolution, it's the distance from 0 or the distance or the change over distance for the faders. So I'm gonna say no. Can you change the resolution? No. No. I'm gonna say no. I might be wrong. I'll admit that, but I'm gonna say no. Kyle did the Ohio meetup yesterday. How did that go, Kyle? I wasn't able to join that one. DJ Big Red is from Canada, and I signed up for the one tomorrow with Johnny. Nice. Yeah, see, you can be wherever you want to be. Where did you get the meetup link? I would love to attend it. I added it in. Again, I'm catching up with you guys. Let's see. Google Presonus meetup. I've already done that for you. Ziggy. So analog may weigh in more bass as increased in saturation. Yes, it might. For an analog, if you have an analog console and you're using the VCAs, you can use the amplifier in it to push into the console and get a little bit more saturation. So yes, you can add a little bit more weight by doing that. Kyle's getting out of here because he's not too far from me, actually. It's late for him. He's got to go to bed. Modridan, I mean, when it's close to 0 and it moves a bit in volume, can you go down? It goes more. For the same movement on the screen. Let's do this. So I just, actually, let's do this. Hang on, I want to add to... I actually don't know how to add. Oh, I guess I could do this. There it goes. That's how you add to a VCA after you've made it. Is you just select the ones you want, and then you click on the VCA controller. So here's our VCA for our drums, which is currently sitting at 0. You can confirm that with this number up here and this one. So if I wanted to, it will control all of these drums, and I have them highlighted. So if I was going to change, let's say I was going to change the volume dB, and I'm just going to go by scroll wheel, so small increments. All of the other faders are moving proportionally, as we said before. So, Modridan, one of the things you were talking about is changing the resolution. So, sort of, and I don't know if this is exactly going to answer your question. It's something we touched about earlier. And I'm just going to hit A so we can see our volume automation. So we're going to do our drums. I'm going to mute all these other channels so we can concentrate on our drums again. Drums is going to your mix bus. So if we were going to write some... Oops. Hang on. This guy. On our VCA, we put it into touch mode automation. I'm going to hit play, and I'm going to write some automation with the VCA. And I've hit stop. Now, scrolling up on my drum tracks, you can see where the channel fader is, but it's control from the VCA from the gray line here. If I was going to navigate to this low spot where the VCA is at -15, right? What I can do with a VCA is I can right click and merge VCA automation, and this will take the VCA automation or the gray lines that are all here and commit this automation to these tracks, and then reset the VCA fader, which is currently at -15.2, it will reset the VCA fader to 0, giving us our resolution back, but all of the automation we've written exists on a track level now. And so even still, if we wanted to go in and write some more automation on the VCA, we now again have our original automation, but now we have the additional VCA automation. Okay, it works now for what I was thinking. Thank you. You're welcome, Modrin. I hope this was answering your question. I'm not entirely sure if it was, but I hope that it did. Speaking of automation, do you have a video going over the different automation types? Yes. If you just go onto my channel and type, Tim Talks Audio Automation, it goes over all of the different modes. Latch, touch, write, read, some of the things you can do within those, some use cases. And I also have a video. Actually, I have a playlist of videos going over automation because of some of the things that you can do with automation. Things like mute. You can do solo automation. You don't really do that these days. You can, though. Absolutely, 100%. Pan automation, volume automation, send level automation, send level mutes, things like that. There's a lot of different things. So if you just look up, I have a playlist of different automation videos that I have already put out. And if I haven't put one out to answer your question, by all means, please let me know, and then I can make it one for the future. Let's see. Darren. Hey, Darren. Can you show how to get another track added to a VCA, as I can only figure out how to make a VCA for the selected tracks? Yes. I actually just did that myself. So I will show you. When you have your console open, what I'm going to do is let's just go over to the guitars. Not that it matters right now. So let's say I make a VCA with these tracks right here, right? I held down Shift. I clicked on the last one. I held down Shift. I clicked on the first one. Right-click or Alt-click on a Mac. Add VCA for selected channels. Oh my goodness, Darren, what have we done? We forgot the main rhythm guitars. Ugh. How can you do that? If you're not already seeing the VCA controller underneath your fader, in your console, go to the wrench, underneath channel components, VCA connections. With this checked, you'll see this little box, and you can see, oh, here's our two main rhythm guitar tracks. They were supposed to be added to this VCA. I can click here. I know it's called VCA 2, or if you rename it, it would be here. I've just added those in. Now they're in this VCA. And if you click, just like we saw on our buses earlier in the stream, if you click on your targets, which is the little hashtag looking, or not hashtag, but hash mark, tally mark, whatever you want to call this, you can see who's added in here. And you can see the order in which it was added. So 13 through 20, and then 11 and 12. That's just the track numbers. But there's no output routing here. Unlike on a bus, where's our bus? Our bus is here. Unlike on a bus where you have your output routing. You can see. Let's see. Imagine having a VCA for the gain stage button. Not bad. Not bad. You're welcome, Darren. Have you come up with the subject for next week's live stream? Not yet. Do you have a suggestion? I'm always open to suggestions. Oh, my neck hurts today. And not because of what I just did. I do have a couple things in mind. I'm always open for suggestions. I think this was a great one to do as a stream, because not a lot of people know the differences between VCAs and buses and how you can use them and how you can use them hand in hand. Mango Man, what's up, bud? Thanks for coming in and hanging out and saying hi. Sorry, I was thirsty. By the way, how do you gain stage in Studio One? What's your method? Um, my gain stage process isn't too involved, I guess I would say. Um, so for like this track that we worked on today, let me get the automation out of here, and I'll just kind of collapse everybody down. Whatever. That's fine. Or let's just do. Oh, not overview. Oh god. Oh, what have I done? See, I wish there is one thing. So I wish there was a fit to screen button. Let's just do normal. I guess I don't need that VCA there, but whatever. So things for like the drums when they came in, they were a little low, so I normalized them, and I did the my macro, which is normalize and peaks at -3. So I could have gone here and hit this, but it just gave a nice little volume bump to everything, especially this bass guitar. This bass guitar was actually really low. Same thing with for like a bunch of the guitars, and even the vocals. The vocal tracks themselves were all pretty low. So I just did some normalization to get everybody up, and because of the macro, it's -3. And then I just had all my faders at I just had all my faders all the way down, and then I just started slowly bringing things up and still hearing and listening to where things should sit in comparison to the other things that were going on. So the vocals were kind of low, and I had to put them into their place, um, minus this little guy here. This little guy was actually really loud, and so I just did some clip gain on him, just to kind of get everybody spots into their spots into the song. And then that's why I did, like, just for this one, it's just a fader balance on most of these things to get that gain staging. So do you use input controls? Sometimes, not really. um if I was doing tracking more, and if I had a Presonus piece of hardware that could be digitally controlled like that, absolutely, I would use input controls all the time. Right now, I use input controls for just like the phase flip buttons, which I didn't even check the phase on this one when I was setting it up. So, can you automate send levels from Faderport? Yes, 100% you can, Matthew. Um, yeah, you can automate almost anything from the Faderport. A lot of different stuff. Tim, I'm always accidentally double clicking MIDI editor or audio editor. Can we disable the editor? Um, no, you're talking the edit window. No, you can't disable that. Um, I would say slow down on your clicking. It's definitely one way to do it. No, I don't think there's a way to disable the edit window. Yeah, sorry. To my knowledge, no, you can't do that. Manus, thanks for coming and hanging out. Thank you for asking your questions. I'm glad you were here and learned some things. Doug, is there a way to bounce bus and effects channels like a transform to rendered audio? You can just export the stems. You can do the same things. So if you're in your session, you can go here, and when you go song and you export stems, I can go to when you're under channels, I can go to, let me just select none real quick, and I can do, here's my drum bus, my bass bus, my guitar bus, my synth bus. So I can just export all of these things, and if I had like effect returns or effects tracks, effects channels, you could do that as well. So you can just go in here and export them. You can also import them back into your track if that works for you. But it's not like transforming to rendered audio, because it's actually just printing it. It'll do it offline unless you're using something like Pipeline, in which case it would need to do it in real time. So it does need to go through the process of actually printing it and putting those whatever kind of manipulation you've done to your tracks on there. So, oh my goodness, why did that scroll so far up? That's okay. But Doug, that would probably be the way that I would suggest doing is just export a stem of the things that you're looking to do, and then you can disable the plugins. Like if your system's running out of resources, you could print it and then pull it back in. DJ Big Red, what about mixing a song from beginning to him? I don't know who him is. And explaining why you're doing certain things. Just thought, but anything you're doing is helpful. Yeah, we can probably mix a song pretty soon. We did a live stream mix a couple of weeks ago. I think at the beginning of the month, I did a live stream mix of like a pop hip hop kind of style song. That was a couple weeks ago, but maybe more frequent mixing of songs is in order. I see. Total different work style. Heaven seems everyone is different. Yeah. Everybody has a different way of working. And it's finding out what works best for you and sticking with it, making sure that it does work for you, and then refining, and then pushing forward, beginning to end. Not him. You need a coffee, so go get one. Mango Man, you're welcome. Doug, you're welcome as well. All right, everybody. I think that's where we're gonna say good night this week. I really hope that everybody learned something. I know I did. I learned something about myself. I didn't learn anything. No, I did learn stuff because I had to do some research to be able to effectively teach you guys about VCAs and buses. So again, I do hope you learned something. I'll figure out what we're gonna do next week. Maybe it's time that we did. Maybe it's time we did a stream. Audio exporting stems of buses. Does that export the bus audio? Example: a mix of the guitars together, a mix of the keyboards. Yes, it's whatever is getting ported through that bus. It'll print just a stereo version of what is being fed in. So essentially, what you would do is print that bus. Let's say it's your guitars, and then you can import that back into your session, and you would just need to, if it doesn't automatically do it, you can mute all of the things manually. This way, you just have the stereo file, and you're manipulating that. Or you can mix down selection. I don't do that too often. But that is another way to do it. And I'm sure there's probably 16 other different ways to do it as well. Ziggy, you're very welcome. DJ Big Red, make sure you click that like button. Smash that subscribe. Oh my god, I said that out loud. Darren, you're very welcome. Thanks for coming and hanging out. Have a great weekend. I hope next week is really good and productive for everybody. And until next week, have a good one.